Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for this hour. We are doing a wonderful studio tour of Jefferson University. I do want to remind you that the chat and the Q&A box are open for this session. So feel free to engage in lively conversation in the chat. And then if you have any questions, we'll be taking questions from the viewers at the end of this presentation. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box. Today, we're going to be joined by several members of the faculty at Jefferson University. We're so excited to see their facility. We're joined by Becky Flax, who is the assistant professor in the Fashion and Textiles Future Center, as well as Meghan Kelly, assistant professor of textile design. I am now going to turn it over to them so that we can experience their whole facility. Take it away, Meghan and Becky.
Hi, welcome to the Textile Alliance Textile Design Studios here at Thomas Jefferson University. Our textile design programs were started here in 1884. Some of you may know us as Philadelphia College of Textiles and Sciences, and some of you may know us as Philadelphia University. We are now part of Thomas Jefferson University, and we retain the heart, legacy, and future of our textile founding. So the studio spaces you'll see today are the primary home of our Bachelor of Science and our Master of Science programs. I myself, with my colleague Becky Flax, behind the Master of Textile Design programs, from Kansas City Art Institute and received my BFA there. Becky received her Bachelor of Science here as well as her Master of Science. So the Textile Design Bachelor of Science and Master of Science programs are a blend of artistic, creative, and aesthetic skills backed by strong technical knowledge and an understanding of structures, fibers, and the appropriate equipment. Our undergrads learn print design, weave design, and knitting design, and they are allowed to choose their area of concentration and go deep after that. Upon being accepted into the program, our graduate students select an area of focus, and they are expected to develop a level of mastery in their chosen field. Our program offers 2-year, 4-year, and a combination 5-year with a Master and Bachelor of Science. These, as you see when we're walking around here, are flexible maker spaces. These can be rearranged to suit the collaborative needs of students and classes. You can see we have large tables, floor looms, and lots of yarn. Behind here, we have lots of windows that let in natural light. We have plenty of outlets. It's a very unique space that allows a lot of flexibility. All of our yarns are sorted by color. They are a mix of fibers and yarn types. Anything from very fine to heavy. It's very smooth textured. We have PVC yarns. We have pencil sliver. Anything and everything in between can be found on these shelves. This is our knitting area. These are our pass-up knitting machines. Pass-ups are a Swiss manufacturer. They've been around since the late 60s. These machines are very rugged and you can do quite a lot of interesting stuff on them. They are V-beds with 4 color changers and can do anything involving knit, miss, tuck structures, Milano, cardigans, single, double bed jacquards. Anything that you want to knit, you can knit on these machines. These are our Dobby looms. The looms themselves are original to the school from 1884. They've now been outfitted with computers, AVL computers, compressed air, and they have 24 harnesses for the ultimate of patterning capability. These are the last step before our students move on to the power Jacquard looms. Throughout the program, all of our students are assigned a piece of equipment that they are able to use throughout the duration of a project or a class. Some students get the use of more than one machine. One of our specialties are our industry projects. We work a lot with various industries, and these projects are beneficial both to the company as well as to the student, with them often leading to internships that often lead to jobs. Some of our most recent collaborations or industry projects have been with Sunbrella, the ITA Virginia Jackson competition, and the Alpaca Owners and Breeders Association. Please enjoy this video of our power weaving space while we prepare to talk to our Masters of Textile Design candidate, Kara Beckner. And just a note, this video has no sound. This is Kara Beckner. She is a Master of Science Textile Design candidate. Kara, would you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to us?
So I received my BFA in Craft Material Studies with a focus in fibers from Virginia Commonwealth University. After graduating, I felt that I really needed to expand my education, and I discovered the Master of Science program at Jefferson. It has by far exceeded my expectations. What I really lacked was the knowledge for designing within that industry. And yeah, this program fully sets you up for that.
Would you show us what you're working on?
Yes. So today I'm putting on a new work. I'm really excited to see how these colors are going to interact with one another. This semester, I'm really fascinated by how we recall memories and really conveying that emotion through color. So we'll see how this goes. And I also have a few samples that illustrate the color palettes that I've been working with, and really thinking about structures that have curvilinear qualities to them.
Oh yeah, these are lovely. Have you had any textile design work or experiences or internships you'd like to share with us?
Yes, thanks to Jefferson, I've been able to really get connected and exposed to opportunities within the area. I've previously interned with Anthropologist's home design textile team. And over the summer, I started working for rep designer Claudia Mills. She has a weaving studio here in Philadelphia. So it's been awesome to see that the design process on a small scale.
All right, lovely. Thank you for sharing your work, Kara.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, HGA.
So before we move on to our next master's program student, Tina Kreibich, we're going to show you a quick video of our knitting lab. So I'm sitting here with Tina Kreibich, our Master of Textile Design knitter, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she's doing and what brought her here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tina. I'm originally from Germany, but I've been in Philly for about 15 years, and I came to knitting as a hobby. I got a degree in Germany in political science. But once I really got into knitting, I really wanted to push myself and see what else is out there. And I got to the point where I thought that then Philadelphia University, now Jefferson, could really enhance and teach me like the next step in knitting. So that's why I'm here and I'm loving it. And yeah, right now I'm knitting on a piece for a fashion collaboration. Jefferson also has an amazing fashion design program, and us textile students collaborate with the fashion students upstairs. And I'm trying to knit a turtleneck that consists of stuffed rolls, and I'm trying to knit it as one piece. And this is my first go, and it's really fun and weird. But yeah, if you want to watch me right now, there is no knitting action. I'm actually just kind of like putting the roll together. And soon I'll continue to knit further. Let's see if it works.
Tina, do you want to show us a couple of your samples you've got in your bag here?
Oh yeah, totally. So this is like a part of my studio work this semester. This is actually one of the pieces. It's also a stuffed piece. It's sparkly and thick. It's gonna be a sound absorbing wall panel. I got some more in here, just like trying to play with like texture and structure and colors. Where's a fun one? This is a fun one. Lots of like little protrusions, some stuff, some not stuff, and some like fun little pieces that are sparkly coming off of the shima that you just saw in the video before, I think.
Wonderful. And do you have any textile background, or have you had any recent experiences?
Yeah, actually, in my free time when I'm not a student, I work as a production knitter for a small knitwear label called Isabel and Cleo. They're located on Nantucket Island, and we hand loom a collection of garments and accessories. And yeah, I've been with them for almost 10 years, knitting scarves and hats and garments, and just loving it.
That's so great. Wonderful. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to have you take a quick peek at our color dyeing and finishing and our Center of Excellence in Non-Porous Printing while we get ready for Sinéad Cahill. So I have Sinéad Cahill with me. She is a Master of Science in Textile Design and Weaver. Sinéad, you want to talk to us about what brought you to textile design?
Yeah, so I got my undergrad here in Philly from Pennsylvania Academy for Fine Art, and I did printmaking, and I always knew about Philly U and was interested in it, but it wasn't until somebody I knew from undergrad came here, and I kind of saw what they were doing, and it looked really exciting. And I was also excited seeing somebody that had a similar background to me, which was from art, and seeing how they were able to like learn textiles and like take on their art backgrounds and how that like influenced them going forward. And I could kind of see the same path for me.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Can you show us what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So this semester I'm kind of looking and doing some research into the British Isles and looking at islands in that area and how some influenced by like water and movement and rhythm. So these are just some colors and patterns that I've been working with here. And then most recently, what I have on the loom right now is just a deflected double fluff. So working with like wool and cotton and shrinkage and yeah, some exciting things.
Lovely. And what kind of textile design experience have you had in your professional life?
Yeah, so this summer I had the opportunity to work with the contract department down at Valdez Weavers down in North Carolina. So that was really amazing getting to work with like real designers and being able to listen to the looms there every day and go in and have like real practical experience.
Oh, what a wonderful experience.
It was.
Yeah,
It was
lovely.
amazing. Yeah, it was incredible.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Sinéad.
Yes,
So we have one last video for you, and while we get set up to do Q&A, please enjoy this video of what other things that make our department so special.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Our first question comes from Pamela. She says, some European textile schools, for example, Leeds University in the UK, have committed to training for sustainable textile design. Is Jefferson training or encouraging careers in sustainable textile use and design?
Absolutely. Yeah, without question. We incorporate it into every course that we teach. We make sure the students are factoring it in at every level. And it is more than just a name. We teach circularity. We teach the reuse of fiber. We teach about dye and water effluent. So every single facet of sustainable practices is investigated, even down to supply chain, for what's going to make the best sustainable product.
Awesome, that was a great answer. Our next question comes from Kathy. She would like to know, what are the requirements for admission into your program?
For the graduate program, there's a portfolio review and an interview.
For the undergrad,
there is no portfolio requirement, but it is strongly encouraged. And we do have a portfolio day on campus where you can receive scholarships based on the level of your portfolio. Additionally, you submit the standard application, and there is as well an interview process.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question comes from Patricia Martin. She would like to know, how many students do you have in each class, and what is the typical class project like?
that's a very good question. It's a bit wide ranging. Our class sizes typically run from 3 to 10 students, depending on the class and the year. And our projects they all tend to be physical hands-on projects, but it really does vary by course and by instructor.
So to give you an idea as well, at any given moment, our undergrad program has about 40 students and our graduate program has about 25.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Beth. How many TC2 Jacquard looms do you have? And have you had any issues with maintaining the looms or keeping them running?
So I'm going to take that one. So we have one TC2 loom that we just acquired, but are waiting for the space to set it up in. However, we do have 3 industrial Jacquard looms that are full, what you would see in a mill, and are run by our amazing technicians. So the students do not run our industrial looms. However, they do learn 2 different programs to design for it.
Great, thank you. Our next question comes from Robin Spady. Where do the majority of your students end up after graduation?
We are very proud to say we have about a 99% placement rate. Our students get jobs in the industry. Depending on where they're working or what industry they're working in, they could end up in nearby New Jersey, New York City, upstate Pennsylvania, down in North Carolina. There's quite a lot of jobs down there. A lot of our students go to the West Coast and work at athletic companies that are based out in that direction. Really, it's kind of all over, upstate Michigan, but they work in all sorts of the sector in textiles.
Yeah, at this moment, there are more jobs than there are candidates. And so our students, when they exit the program, generally have 2 to 3, if not more, job offers waiting. And like Meghan said, it is across apparel and interiors, and as well as automotive and biomedical. So there are many, many opportunities for our students after they finish the program.
That actually leads into our next question from Sarah Beyer. She says, have you done any work with high performance textiles such as aerospace and medical textiles?
Yes, definitely. So Thomas Jefferson University is a medical college, and so we are working in a collaborative nature to develop medical textiles. We do this in industry projects or in department to department collaborations. We have in the past and worked with NASA on some particularly interesting woven fabrics. We've done also some underwater knitted things that are like algae collectors. So we have a lot of high performance collaborations.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, we do work with the Department of Defense as well. And we have a full textile testing facility here, which is our Bruner lab run by the brilliant Janet Brady. And many of our students are active members of the AATCC.
Wonderful. How much square foot do you think you approximately have for all of your facilities? They seem huge.
I have no idea.
Yeah. You'll just have to come visit us and see.
I know after this, I think everyone wants to come visit.
Please do. We'd love to have you.
Our next question is, do you offer continuing education classes for non-credit students?
We do.
And we have various workshops happening throughout the year, mostly in the summertime.
And so the best thing to do is to contact us directly. It's our name at jefferson.edu with the exception of Meghan, who has a 2 at the end. But you can reach out to us, and the information Whitney has as well, which maybe it'll come out afterward. But that's definitely something that we encourage and would love to see more of.
And we're happy to put our contact information in the chat.
Yes.
Fabulous. Our next question comes from Sandra. She wants to know, do you work with carbon fiber?
We have, yes. Actually, one of the students who is helping us with this right now worked on a project weaving with carbon fiber for the engineering department as a part of a larger bit of research that was happening on campus. So at any given moment, we as the textile design department are tapped to develop materials, to work with different materials and come up with prototypes, which makes us really very lucky.
Great. Back to the question earlier a little bit about offering classes for non-credit students. Do you offer any online classes for the general public?
Not at this moment.
Yeah.
It is something we're interested in. It's a little bit of a time management situation.
Yeah, and additionally, part of what makes our program so amazing is access to the equipment that we have on campus. And so it's really challenging to incorporate that into an online structure. However, we do have a sustainability program housed in the School of Architecture and the Built Environment, which is entirely online. So there are several online programs via Jefferson, the enterprise, but at the moment we do not have any in our department.
Thank you. Our next question from Robin is, a great deal of textile production was sent overseas. Do you see more textile production moving back to or establishing themselves back in the United States?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the big things that I think everyone was frustrated with during the pandemic was the disruption in the supply chain. And that forced a lot of companies to rethink how they do their business and how they do their manufacturing. There's been a long interest in bringing manufacturing back to the domestic US, and the pandemic actually has pushed that forward. We've been working as recently as this weekend with companies who their whole mission is to create knitting facilities in the US. And there's still quite a few mills here, weaving mills and spinning mills in the US, and there's a push to bring those back in more effort as well.
Exactly. So part of Meghan and my research is to help to develop a certificate program for individuals who are looking to learn to run industrial equipment. And so if there are any philanthropic donors out there, you know where to find us.
Yes, definitely. One of the questions was, how much noise do your power looms make? Does that cause for a lot of noise in the studio space?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Jacquard looms are housed in a separate space. And when we were able to update our studios, gosh, it must be 10 years ago now, thanks to the generous support from the textile design community and our donors to the university, we were able to put the Jacquard looms in a soundproof space that is just outside of our power knitting space. So they are very loud, and students and our technician must wear hearing protection when they're running. So the answer is yes, but it doesn't affect this space that we're in right now quite as much.
Great. This is a comment from Rebecca Musoff. She said, what a fascinating tour of the facility and work. Thank you so much for sharing your program. It's been inspiring.
Our pleasure.
Our next question touches on the subject of, you said that you work with a lot of corporations and companies to provide your students with internships or operative roles. So can you speak to those? And then are those available for both undergraduate and master's level students?
Yes, absolutely. We have a really close-knit relationship with several companies. Sunbrella is a really great example. They do an industry sponsored project with us every 2 years. It's open to both undergrads and grads. In fact, all of our competitions are open to grads and undergrads. And in the most recent iteration of this, it was just with our school. It was not a competition among other schools. Several of our students won prizes or levels for second, third, and 2 of them won internships. And then 3 previous graduates have just started jobs down there. And that's a great relationship and a great example of the kind of collaborations and competitions we do.
Absolutely. And we are always open to those opportunities. We have a hard time saying no when it comes to the benefit of our students. So we've done work with Urban Outfitters, we've done work with Old Navy, anyone who wants to, we believe in saying yes and putting our students' names and work out there.
That's wonderful, because I think it is all about connection and community and establishing those relationships. So far it sounds like a lot of your students are geared towards working for companies. Is there a part of your program that is geared towards those who want to become full-time artists and have an artist practice?
We really focus on design as a practice. So design involves working outside of yourself as well. While we fully support being an artist, we think the collaborative nature of design is really where we focus. That said, several of our graduates do go on to start their own businesses, creating their own work, and have been quite successful. In fact, on Thursday, we're having our 5th annual design symposium, and we have an entrepreneurship panel at 1:30.
Yes.
1:30. And all of them are alumni, and they have all started their own business and are wildly successful. So we are fully supportive of that.
Absolutely. And as part of design, like Meghan said, part of identifying the reason why you're developing these things, which ties back to sustainability, is that it goes to a person to solve a problem or to fill a need. And so what we're training our students to do is to find needs, to find opportunities to enhance lives, to create better situations, and identify that market, that person, and create for them.
That sounds fantastic. Someone wants to know about not necessarily the details of the enrollment process, but when is the typical timeline if someone's interested in applying to the program? Is there a deadline or a timeline they need to follow?
There are deadlines. Enrollment management would have the exact dates for you.
Yeah, your best bet is to go on to jefferson.edu, and
March 1st is the deadline for undergraduate applications.
We're not being fed information. Meghan just had a brilliant epiphany.
If you're fed information, that works too. It takes a team, right? It takes a team. So one of the things that stood out to our viewers was all the beautiful yarns, colors of yarns. So do you have a relationship with a supplier that provides all of those, or can you talk about your yarn selection and do you use all different fiber types?
We definitely use all different fiber types, and most of our yarn comes from our very strong relationship with all of our industry partners in some form or the other. Sometimes we purchase it, sometimes it's donated, but it's been accrued over many years of really strong, good relationships.
Absolutely. And being open and again saying yes when it benefits our students allows us to keep our yarn shelves stocked. Because when our brilliant industry partners reach out and say they have a pallet of yarn that they need to get rid of, we're increasing sustainability by saying yes and giving it in this platform.
So it doesn't go to a landfill. And the other nice thing about being a student in this program is that you never really have to purchase yarn. We probably have what you're looking for. You might not even realize it.
It may not be the color, and so that's when you have to get creative in terms of dyeing or burnout or, you know, a method like that, or printing over it. But we have the fiber type and we can make it work.
And speaking of dyeing, is the focus or the emphasis, do you do more of chemical dyeing and acid dyes over natural dyes, or is it both?
So we encourage our students to explore every type of dyeing, and there are workshops on campus for natural dyeing. However, the courses that we teach are more specifically on chemical dyeing. So it covers everything from fiber interaction with dye, the different types of dye from direct to acid to fiber reactive to basic to vat, to disperse, because we are very fortunate on campus to have a center of excellence in digital printing for textiles as well. So we have 4 different dispersed dye printers, as well as the exhaust dyeing with dispersed dyes in the lab environment. So, and then we go into finishing as well, because at the moment we are not removed from chemical dyeing in industry. And so having the knowledge to be able to make suggestions to make change is just as important as knowing everything about natural dyes.
Great answer. We have another question about weaving related. Have your students done any weaving with fiber optics or glass fiber? Have you done any collaborations with Corning Glass by chance?
So we have not done any collaborations with Corning Glass, but it would be outstanding to do some. And absolutely, I would say at least once a year, a student tries weaving with fiber optic filaments. In my thesis collection, I did a significant amount of weaving with fiber optic filaments. And we've also started looking at different denier fiber optic filaments to have the opportunity to knit them on some of our electronic knitting equipment as well.
Yep.
Wonderful. Speaking of knitting, we have a question about knitting machines. How applicable is the work done with passive knitting machines in your classes to industrial settings and design?
They're actually a perfect lead-in. So the passive knitting machine is kind of ingeniously designed because it really is a manual version of an electronic knitting machine. In fact, there are some things you can do in the passive that you cannot even do in an electronic knitting machine. But the way that we structure our courses is you learn the technical aspects of knitting from Becky, and then you come to me and I teach you how to design iteratively on the pass-up. And from there, you move on to the electronic knitting machines. And if you understand the knit structure and you understand what you did on the pass-up, you can absolutely program that on an electronic knitting machine.
And to that point as well, I just completed a collaboration with individuals in our architecture department for an installation at the Da Vinci Art Alliance in Philadelphia. And I took pieces that were knit by an architecture student on a 5-cut machine and translated them onto our 10-cut machine, and was able to get the exact same characteristics. And so in the future, we'd love to do more collaborations like that and show students the application of these materials and how they can be transitioned more, because it was a fantastic opportunity.
Great, thank you. Our next question comes from Kathy. Do your graduating students have to participate in an exhibit at the end of their senior year or at the end of their master's?
Yes, absolutely, it's required. In the undergrad program, we call that your capstone. And for the master's program, that would be your thesis collection. And this should be a body of work that exemplifies all the work that you've done, all the research you've done, and all the hard work that brought you to that point. The exhibition is very, very important as both a way to celebrate and to show others everything that you've done.
And it coincides with the Innovator Expo, which is an event that Thomas Jefferson University as a larger enterprise celebrates by having a major donor dinner in the space. And so individuals who wouldn't otherwise get to see the student work are invited to come walk through all of the show spaces. The capstone and thesis work are also paired with a course that helps you to build your portfolio, your resume, and all of the branding that surrounds your portfolio and your body of work.
In line with that, someone wanted to know, is photos or video of those exhibits available online for the general public to see? Is that something that you can see your graduating students' work?
So up to this point, our last 2 years have been remote. And so they've been video voiceover presentations. And so those are accessible via our YouTube channel. So if you go onto YouTube and search Textile Design at Jefferson, you'll be presented with a lot of amazing video content that we've created since having to, bug out in the spring of 2020. But if you scroll back through our Instagram feed, there are always brilliant images of our shows. If you go to Aspire, we always post highlights of our student work and images from the shows. So there's lots of different ways to access that content.
And we'll put those links in the chat.
Wonderful. How many people or students or percentage would you say of your undergraduate students come back and join you for a master's program?
That's a very good question.
Oh, so we have a program where in the junior year, students can elect to stay on for a 4+1 program. So they begin taking master's courses at the end of their junior year and senior year to enable them to complete their master's program in 5 years. So that's our 4+1 program. I would say though, with the way that the industry is changing and students looking for opportunities to expand knowledge before entering the industry, we're finding that students from other disciplines on campus are staying and joining us for their masters. So we've had industrial designers come join us for the master's program, interior designers and architects all join us for the masters. Visual communications design.
It sounds like a wonderful community. Along those lines, the jobs you mentioned earlier about how all your students have about 2 to 3 job opportunities once they're about to graduate. Does that apply to both undergraduate and the master's graduates?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So it sounds like a high job placement rate, which is great.
Yes, very high. Yeah, 99% placement rate, which is kind of unheard of.
Yes, that is very high. Let's see, we don't have any more questions right now in the Q&A box, but someone did shout out Becky. They said, would love to hear more about your weaving work with fiber optics.
Yay.
So my thesis collection, what I did when I was in the master's program, because both Meghan and I are alums of the master's program, and I am an alum of the undergrad program as well. Mine was all about glowing textiles. So I took every opportunity to create textiles that either self-illuminated or illuminated under different light sources. And so I used LEDs and fiber optic filaments to create different imagery when exposed to different light sources. I also found an amazing type of medical grade tubing that fluoresces under bright white light. So I would say that in our program, all of our faculty are supportive of the most amazing quirks that you're excited to investigate. So if you have a question to ask, we are a great place to ask it. Do you want to talk about your master's?
It doesn't have anything to do with
That's okay.
optics.
Meghan did amazing work in her master's on entirely whole garment knitting, so 3-dimensional knitting, which is also really, really exciting and something that we are able to do on campus.
We have actually 2 electronic knitting machines, both with seamless knitting capability. We have the Shima, which you saw in the video, and the Stoll, which is a finer gauge, which is an exciting, both of them are exciting because they do different things, but use more or less the same knitting technology. And then the seamless garment making is really interesting, particularly for those of you who are interested in sustainability, because there's virtually no waste. There's no cut and sew methods. You can even program it so that the waste that you cut off the little strings are very minimal. It's a really wonderful way of working. It tends to be highly skilled, so there's not a lot of it you'll see out in the commercial sector, but this is one of the places where manufacturing is coming back to the US. There are a lot of companies that are investing in these machines and exploring these capabilities. Among apparel companies, there are, mostly you'll find it in athletics, but you'll also find this kind of seamless technology being used in high-tech companies that you would think, why would you need this? Like Google and Apple, like these giant tech companies also are hiring programmers and hiring technicians and using seamless knitting to do really advanced stuff.
For those individuals out there that are more hand knitters, what is the process like? Is it easy to switch to a machine or learn that to machine knit?
Yes. Yes, I'm a hand knitter. Becky's a hand knitter. If you understand knitting, then switching to a machine is totally fine. It's just understanding the buttons and the mechanics of it.
Yeah, and it does help to be able to see the knits. So, you know, as a hand knitter, you know what you're knitting, you know your pattern, you know what a face knit versus a back knit, or a knit versus a purl versus one of the transfers or a cable looks like. And so it's just about seeing that in machine knit pieces, which tend to be a bit finer.
And all that said, you can know nothing about knitting and be a fantastic knitter as well. We'll teach you from the ground up. It's totally fine. I've got a student over here who's nodding because she didn't know knitting and now she's an expert.
Yes, it seems that recently, and I don't know if it's because of everyone being stuck at home for a bit, that there's been a resurgence in wanting to make things with your hands. So you see people picking up knitting, picking up crochet, or some form of weaving. Have you seen any results of that with your university, of people being more interested?
Yeah, I think definitely.
Yeah. I also think it's expanded things for our students. So when we weren't able to be on campus for that very short period of time, our students did a ton of research and learned how they could take their practice home with them without having the equipment. And some of the ways that they were able to innovate were just brilliant. And those are all featured on our Aspire page as well.
Wonderful. We just received a question about CAD programs. Do you teach them, and which programs do you teach?
So yes, I can speak to some of the print and weaving, and I'll let Meghan talk about the knitting programs. In terms of weaving, we teach EAT, which is a German software. We teach Pointe-Carré, which is a French software. We use Do Weave and Weave Point for our CompuDobbies. So I think those are all of our weave softwares. We do have Ned Graphics, but we have the Ned Graphics Dobby. We don't specifically use Ned Graphics for Jacquard because we found from our industry partners that that's not one of the main softwares that they're looking for individuals to be trained in. And then in terms of print development, we have, again, Ned Graphics, that we have the full print studio. We have the full Adobe suite for all of our students, and it can be accessible for them on up to 2 machines. And one of those include their cell phone. So all of the apps that are available on the phone, our students have access to as well. And we specifically train on Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And if any students are interested in learning about video editing, we work with Premiere Rush and Premiere Pro as well.
And on the knitting side, it's a little bit less extensive, but we use the Stoll M1 Plus, which is a proprietary software. And on the Apex, on the Shima, we learn Apex SDS1, which is their proprietary software. So these are the same but different. And then each one runs its own machine.
And we've acquired a circular knitting machine, which is a Santoni 28 gauge single bed machine. And once that's fully up and running and accessible, we'll be also training on the Lenati software, which is specific to circular knitters.
Great. Our next question I completely agree with. It says, "We all want do-overs and want to go to your school now." Do you have many returning in quotation mark students?
Yes, absolutely. We definitely have students who have taken breaks and come back. We do, to answer the question a little bit more succinctly from earlier, we have undergraduates who've gone on to work in industry, decided to reset, come back. We have people who want a career change, which is actually what I did. I didn't go to grad school until I was in my 30s because I needed a career change, and I came back and decided to focus on what I loved. So you have that all the way up until people who have retired and said, I'm not done and I need to know more, and excellent students across the board.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We have a few minutes left, so if you have any final comments, we would love to hear them.
I would say please join us if you can for a symposium on Thursday. It's going to be an excellent lineup of alumni talking about their careers in textile design. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the entrepreneurship panel
at 1:30.
At 1:30. We have 3 different presentations talking about 3 different experiences post-graduation. So it would be hugely informative. We're going to put the link in the chat. You can register for it. It's a one webinar that'll go all day long, but we have presentations at 9, 10:30, 11:30, 9, 10:30, 1:30, and 2:30.
Yes. And be sure to follow us on our social medias. We are active primarily on Instagram and a little bit on TikTok and a little bit on Facebook. But that's a great way to stay on top of what we've got going on. We always encourage people to visit us whenever we're having an open house. And all of the links to that type of event are in our link tree, which are accessible from any of our social medias. So it's a great place.
We're posting the links to everything now. And we also have, just so you know, our upcoming open house is October 16th on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. So you're welcome to come through. We will be here giving live tours. You can see everything in person if you're in the area.
Yeah, I think it's you and me.
It's actually you.
Oh, it's just me. It's me. Come see me.
Wonderful. And speaking from an HGA perspective, we have a great relationship with Jefferson. We work closely with all the faculty there to make sure their students are aware of all the opportunities that we offer at HGA, from our convergence internships to the Fashion Design Challenge program. They've been a great partner with us and always having a team submit garments for the fashion show. And I know they probably will again when we meet next summer in Knoxville.
Yes. Yeah, I was actually a graduate assistant at the one in Rhode Island in Providence. So I'm hoping we'll get some more out there for Knoxville.
Wonderful. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say that the link to the webinar is in the chat. So please do register. We'd love to have you.
Yes, so everyone, like Megan just said, join them for their webinar later this week and learn more about their fabulous program and their students. I want to thank you again for sharing your wonderful program with us, your students, and your work also. So thank you again so much for giving of your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely a pleasure.
A few housekeeping items before we end this session. I want to remind everyone that all of these episodes of Spinning and Weaving Week have been recorded and will be available on demand. When you're in the attendee hub, across the top bar, you'll see a schedule button, and it'll have a drop down that will list view schedule or also on demand. So after this, the video will be available in the on demand area for you to watch again if you missed part of it, or just enjoy the whole thing again if you were here for the whole episode. We will next have another Thread Talk session coming up after this at 2. So we'll see you over there shortly. And thanks again for joining our studio tour with Jefferson University.